When did I meet Congressman Cummings? It was my 1L year and his 3L year here at the law school.
Elijah and I met the first day of law school in 1973.
August of 1973. Hot and humid day in Baltimore. It was our first day of law school.
We were late. We were both taking the bus. Our buses were late. There were 2 seats left, adjoining seats left, and we took those seats, and that's when we met. And that started a friendship that lasted like more than 4 decades.
Boy, when did I meet Congressman Cummings? I certainly met him before we served together in Congress.
I first met Elijah Cummings in the spring of 1969. He was a student at the high school that I had graduated from.
Well, I first met Congressman Cummings when I was working on Capitol Hill for Senator Paul Sarbanes.
He was one of a handful of African-American 3L students who many of us met early on in the semester and got to know fairly quickly as really one of the leaders at the school.
Elijah and I met in 1998 on Capitol Hill. I came to Washington in 1997 to collect data for my dissertation, and he was one of the first members of Congress to grant me an interview. And, I took note of his very liberal positions on the issue, his work that he was doing in the community. And I ended up labeling him in my dissertation a transformational leader. And so one day he asked me out. And that started a great friendship, which blossomed into a romance that then blossomed into a marriage.
He's really a funny person. I want to make that known. You see so many pictures of him, and he looks very stately and so forth, which he was. But Elijah loved to laugh, and he had a hearty laugh. He would start laughing, and he couldn't finish his sentence. It would take like 3 minutes to get it out because he's just bawling over with laughter. So he was a funny guy. He was a good-natured person to be around.
One of the things that stood out for me and many of us was his always seeming seriousness of purpose, which is not to say he didn't laugh easily. He did laugh easily.
Growing up in Baltimore for Elijah was an adventure. He was a newspaper deliverer. He sold the Afro-American newspaper. He always had a job, even as a very young boy. He had a lot of pain in his childhood. He grew up in segregated Baltimore. He knew what it was like to actually attend schools that were separate and unequal.
He would often say that his teachers didn't treat him as fairly or didn't recognize his abilities or recognize his particular way of learning. That could have stifled some people forever, but it didn't with Elijah because he deep down had a desire to be somebody that he knew he already was. He knew he had greatness in him, but he wanted that opportunity to be able to let it expound.
Elijah was an overcomer. He found out that he had something called rights. And he wanted to make sure that he preserved his rights, but he also preserved and protected other people's rights too.
He fought for justice. He fought for equality. But he also tried to inspire other people to fight for justice and to fight for equality.
I think that more than anything else, he cared about the next generation. And I think it's because he saw in every young person, he saw himself.
What he said to young people is he said, look, it's not a question of whether there are going to be some significant obstacles in your life. They're going to be. But what you need to know is overcoming those obstacles is what tempers your character. And it's what gives you a unique ability to contribute to the public good.
And he said this often, our children are the living messages we will send to a future we will never see. And so he put his heart and soul into young people.
He spent a lot of time thinking about young people, talking to young people, focused on young people, because he understood full well that unless we paid a lot of attention to our future, the work we did in the present would be for naught.
One of his gifts was a real deep commitment to giving back to his community and wanting the strengths in his community to be as vibrant as they could be. And so one of those places was the law school.
He first never ended his connection with the law school. We saw him back here for alumni events. He was a member of the law school's board of visitors. He even held congressional hearings here in the law school.
He would say to people, don't let anyone hold you back. Don't limit your dreams and your aspirations. If you put your mind to it, if you dedicate yourself to a goal, you can reach it.
Elijah would say, be fierce, be unafraid, and take risks to succeed. You will fail, he would say. You will fail from time to time. But failure is an opportunity to get up, try again, and proceed to succeed.
He was an absolutely fantastic listener. He could, listen to what your problems were, but most importantly, he would work his butt off to actually address the challenge. So people got a sense that he cared, and he absolutely did care.
Talking to him over the years, I also had this sense that Congressman Cummings was sort of amazed and humbled at his own trajectory. In other words, he would step out, he would look at what he'd achieved in his life, the heights to which he had risen, leading a powerful committee in Congress, and I think was truly humbled by that.
He has been impactful, his career, his work, his dedication to this institution, the law school, his dedication to the people of Baltimore, and frankly, his dedication, as we saw in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years of his life, to the country as a whole, is immeasurable.
We have this amazing country and fabulous judicial system. We have a set of riches that few countries can boast. And Congressman Cummings wanted that opportunity. He wanted those riches to be used to help ensure that all people in our society got an equal chance.
He restored our faith in the country, and he gave us hope.
He touched so many people in so many different ways.
He could relate so well to the everyday man. Thurgood Marshall had a quote that said, "I did the best I could with what I had." And I think Elijah exemplifies that quote.
She talked about when we are dancing with the angels, the question will be, what did you do in 2019 or 20 or whatever year to preserve our democracy? So this sense that we all have an obligation to account for our time on earth. And he lived that, but he also spoke that.